Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Accessible Learning Services video around the Accessible Learning Lab. So today we're just going to have a little bit of a conversation around what the Accessible Learning Lab is and let you guys meet some of the people who are super important in its function. So, ladies, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Kelly Diamond, and I'm the adaptive technologist in the Accessible Learning Lab. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Latara Kudo, and I am the learning support technician in the Accessible Learning Lab. Thanks for joining.
Welcome. So for anyone who doesn't know, my name's Annette, and I'm one of the accessibility counselors. And today we're also lucky enough to be joined by Johanna, who is one of our accessibility support officers. So welcome, everyone. So Joe, I'm going to hand it off to you to get us started here in learning a little bit about the lab.
Perfect. Thanks, Annette. So I'll start with the first question, just so we can get familiar with some of the services offered through the Accessible Learning Lab. Kelly, can you please tell us about some of the services and supports that students can access through the Accessible Learning Lab?
Yeah, absolutely. The Accessible Learning Lab staff provide support to students with assistive technology options and learning strategies. The ALL, or also known as just the lab, we also offer monthly workshops, equipment loans of devices, and alternate formats of textbooks and course materials. When students are on campus, the ALL office is a quiet open space with some computers where students can work and study.
That's awesome. That's an amazing resource, Kelly. Now, Latara, would you be able to tell us a little bit about what some of the staff roles are and how they can help within the Accessible Learning Lab?
Yeah, so in the Accessible Learning Lab, there is an adaptive technologist, that's Kelly, and an ALL support officer, both of who meet students with assistive technology and learning strategies. And there's also an ALS technician who organizes the equipment loans, alternative formats, and they update the ALS's department's webpage. And they also give others technical support and consultations.
Wow, that sounds really, really helpful. Thanks, Latara. So the next question, Kelly, you mentioned a little bit about learning strategies that you can discuss with students. Can you give us a few idea of the different types of learning strategies that students can meet with you about, or things you can help out with?
So there's a number of different learning strategies that we support students with. Sometimes students are new to My Canvas, and we will support students with learning how to navigate My Canvas. And some of the learning strategies that we often discuss are things around time management and organization, study skills, note-taking strategies, test-taking strategies, reading and comprehension, and retaining information, planning, organizing thoughts for essays, memory aids, and memory strategies, and there's others as well. So that's just a snapshot.
That's awesome. That's a lot of strategies I wish I had when I was in school. Definitely a skill set that needs to be built, I think, for everybody.
Sure.
So how, Latara, how would students be able to take advantage of sort of being able to meet with yourself or Kelly one-on-one?
Yeah, students can usually meet with us following an appointment with their accessibility counselor. And sometimes the appointment to meet with us is booked at that time, or the student can contact the front desk to book it. Another way is we've introduced the Accommodate portal. So students can also use the Accommodate portal to schedule their own appointment and follow-ups.
Oh, wow. Okay, that sounds pretty straightforward. Thanks for explaining that, Latara. The next question is about technologies. I know that there's many different types of technologies that can help students in their programs, but would you be able to give us just a few ideas, a few brief ideas about different types of strategies, maybe the more common ones that students can look into, Kelly?
Absolutely. You're right. There are a number of different types of assistive technology students can use to help them with their studies. Some of the ones we commonly receive requests about are text-to-speech programs, which read text out loud, note-taking technologies, which record audio, the audio of a lecture, ones around writing support. So things like voice recognition or word prediction or mind map programs, and also programs that will help with time management. Yeah.
Wow, that's a ton of technology. See, learning strategies and technologies that I would have loved to have access to when I was in school. So, Latara, I know that Kelly had described a bunch of different technologies and different learning strategies that are out there and available to students. But especially when it comes to those adaptive technologies, if a student wants to be able to have those technologies on their accommodation letter so they can use it during testing and stuff, how would they go about that?
If a student is interested in having assistive technology on their accommodation letter, they should register first with the Accessible Learning Services and then make an appointment to meet with an accessibility counselor. Any documentation that you have to support that, you should bring to the appointment, or you can submit it before the appointment with the accessibility counselor. And during that meeting, they may suggest meeting with one of us in the Accessible Learning Lab. During that appointment, we can explore assistive technologies and learning strategies, and also set up accounts for students to use for your program.
Oh, wow, that sounds great. I know, especially for me, technology can be a little bit challenging, especially when it's your first time using it and learning the programs.
Yeah.
So what type of supports are offered for students to learn the program, stay familiar with it, and how can they access somebody if they have questions with it along the way?
Good question. During our appointments, we'll demonstrate and review some of the features of the programs. And some programs may require additional training to use them, and we'll book follow-up appointments. We may also send a cheat sheet or a video to the student for their reference that they can use to support them as they're using it. We also encourage students to reach out to us whenever there's any issues with the programs, or when they may need a refresher about how to use it, or if they're curious about how to do something within it. Maybe they've tried different things, but they're not having much success. So we're more than happy to meet with them to go over how to do different things.
That's great. I definitely be taking you up on that technology support.
Now, Kelly, you had mentioned reaching out. When a student goes and reaches out, how do they actually have an opportunity to meet with you? Is it something that's in person, over the phone, virtual? What sorts of supports are provided?
So students can meet with us either through a phone call, virtually in a Zoom appointment, or in person on campus.
The Accessible Learning Lab facilitates some workshops. Can you give us an idea of some of the topics that are covered in the workshops and sessions that you offer?
Our workshops topics cover assistive technology tools, learning strategies. Some workshop topics that we've discussed are navigating My Canvas, creating a semester on a page, which is just organizing all of your course content, assignments, and tests, study skills, text-to-speech programs, and also the Microsoft learning tools and mind maps.
That's perfect, and probably very useful and well attended too. So
Yes.
when it does come to these workshops, where would students be able to find more information about what's being offered for that semester, and how would they go about registering?
So students can learn more about our workshops on the ALS My Canvas course, and also on the Accessible Learning Lab webpage through the Mohawk College website. And to sign up for or to register for one of our workshops, please contact front desk at als@mohawkcollege.ca. And in the subject line, please indicate workshop and which one you're interested in.
Great, that sounds easy enough. So you mentioned earlier on that you have a loaning library offered through Accessible Learning Lab. What pieces of equipment or what types of equipment can students borrow from the Learning Lab?
So some examples of the types of equipment that students can borrow through the lab are laptops that are loaded with assistive technology programs already installed on it, FM systems, live scribe pens, C-pen readers, and digital recorders.
Perfect. So lots more resources. Now, to be able to access that loaning library and be able to loan out or borrow the different pieces of equipment, how do students go about doing that?
So students can request an equipment loan again by emailing front desk at als@mohawkcollege.ca, and in the subject line indicate equipment loan of whichever device it is that they're interested in loaning. Front desk will then forward that email to a ALS technician, Greg Gagnon, and he will contact the student to arrange the equipment loan.
Okay, so the next topic that we're hoping that you can discuss a little bit is alternative format. Would you be able to give us a brief explanation as to what alternative format is and who would make a request for alternative format?
Yeah, for sure. An alternative format is just another way of presenting printed or electronic material so that it is accessible for everyone. Someone may want an alternate format because they use a text-to-speech program or a screen reader program, and they may need the material in Braille, in large print, or closed captioning for videos.
Right. So if they are in need of alternative format, how would they go about making a request?
Students can request an alternate format of their textbook or course materials by completing the online alternate format request form, which is located on the Mohawk College website on the Accessible Learning Lab webpage.
Great. So it sounds like there's lots offered through the Accessible Learning Lab. Can students at all campuses access the Accessible Learning Lab? Is there different locations at the different campuses?
There is different locations at different campuses. So the Accessible Learning Lab at Fennel is located in A122. And there is an Accessible Learning Lab in Stony Creek, and that is in room C104. So we support students at Fennel, Stony Creek, IHS campuses, as well as students at Six Nations Polytechnic, and then also through continuing education and dual credit programs.
Oh, wow. Basically, any student registered with Accessible Learning Services can connect with the Accessible Learning Lab, it sounds like.
Yes.
Great.
Well, those are amazing supports that you guys have shared with us today. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And we hope to see you in the lab.